here's a story about me getting to do my childhood dream of working at an arcade. So, back in 2008, I was a senior in high school, and my friend invited me over to his house to play this game because he was really into it, and it ended up being Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. It was really old, but I went over to play because I was like, oh cool, Street Fighter, I played that, you know, and I played against his brother, and he used a character called Makoto, and I got mauled, because in that game, at the time I didn't know how to play fighting games. It was just, whoever mashes the most buttons ends up winning, and that's what I thought. And we did some other stuff after that, but I thought about that game, and I'm like, how does this guy consistently beat me and he's not mashing buttons? So I went on the internet and I looked up, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and I found this video where this Japanese player does all this crazy stuff against the Chun-Li, and then it's like a really big comeback. It's called the Daigo Parry video. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard it if you're in the fighting game community. But after I saw that, I was like, whoa, there's this whole other world of fighting games that isn't just smashing buttons. And so after that, I started trying to go to a lot of arcades in the area. Like I live in Southern California, so like Arcade Infinity and like the arcades like near my house. So like I wouldn't be able to go that many times because I was still in high school. I didn't have a car, so I would beg my friends who did have cars to like help me go, and I would go like once a year because that place is kind of far if you don't have a car, especially as a high school student. But I would go once a year, and I would spend like the whole day there. And as a child, I would go to arcades a lot because video games are pretty much like 70% of my life. So I would go to arcades a lot and play DDR and stuff like that, play fighting games. And I always wanted to work at an arcade because I was like, you just get to chill out and play video games and help people. So after I finished high school, this guy named Alex Valle, he started doing Wednesday night fights. It's like a weekly tournament. It's called Wednesday night fights it's like for Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom. He started doing them near the LAX area, near like an airport, and I couldn't really go because it was really far. But he changed locations a little bit, like a few times, and he was at a place called Super Arcade, and I looked it up, and Super Arcade was a little closer to me, and at the time I was a little more independent. I wasn't really asking people to give me rides anymore, and I was a little more comfortable taking the bus. So what happened was every Wednesday I would ask my friend to drive me to Wednesday night fights. Well, he would go too, so I would tag along with him. He'd go to Wednesday night fights, and I would stay there, and it'd be really cool. And we would leave about a few hours after because none of us entered the tournament because none of us knew how to really play. I didn't own the game. I think he owned the game, but he didn't really play that much. But we did that a couple of times, and then eventually he stopped going, so I couldn't really ask him to go with me. So I ended up taking the bus. It was like a 2-hour bus ride on 2 buses to get there. And those tournaments started like 9 p.m. and end at like 3 in the morning, so I couldn't really like take the bus and get there at 9 p.m. So I'll get there at like 3 p.m. and just stay the whole day and wait for the tournament to start, which is cool. I got to spend the whole day at the arcade, and I would talk with the workers there, just talk about stuff like this guy named Eris. He was there. He's really cool and really funny, and this guy Mike Ross, sometimes he would come and he would play things. And so I would hang out at Super Arcade a lot, and the guy he didn't own it at the time, but he was pretty much like the guy who did own it. He basically put Mike Watson in charge. So this guy Mike Watson, sometimes I would see him, and he would help run the counter and the tournament and stuff. So I would go every Wednesday on the bus, over there, and I would ask people for rides back to my house because the buses don't run at 3 in the morning. And he would notice that I would like ask people to drive me back. And one day he was like, "Hey dude, where do you live? Because you're here like every week and you ask people to drive you back." And I said, "I live in the city called Alhambra." And he's like, "Oh, I'm like really close to there. I'm like 5-10 minutes away from there." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "Well, if you want, I can drive you to Super Arcade and back, but on the condition that you help out at the tournaments." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds really cool. Like, I'd love to help out." So it's almost like working at the arcade if you're helping out. But I didn't get paid. That was the thing. I didn't get paid. I would help out so he could drive me to and from, and he would pay for my food, which is good because I love food. And I was okay with not getting paid. So I did that for like about a year and a half. And everyone started to get to know who I was because I was there a lot of the times. And at the time, Wednesday Night Fights was like the place to get better at Street Fighter. So a lot of like the top players in Southern California, a lot of like new people, and a lot of just okay, the people who don't get top 8 but are like really good and are pretty they're known throughout the community. They come and they notice that I'm there. They talk to me and stuff. So a lot of my friends that I have now are because of going to Super Arcade. So eventually Super Arcade had a Kickstarter to renovate, because at the time the owner of that place gave ownership to Mike Watson, but when he gave ownership to Mike Watson, the original owner took all of the arcade machines back, which was that was bad for us because we had to buy arcade machines like real so we could stay in business. So there was a Kickstarter for renovations to get more arcade machines and just renovate the whole place, because it was like really dirty, and the bathroom was like one of the worst things. The bathroom was insanely dirty. So we met our goal. We met our goal and we exceeded it, actually. I don't remember, it was like $47,000. We raised it because Super Arcade is like a very well-known place in Southern California, and people like all over the world know it at this point. So after we raised that money, we renovated, and I didn't really help, but I stayed there when they were working on it, and I was hanging out. And after we renovated, Mike Watson started paying me, which was great because at the time I never really had a job that paid me. It wasn't really a real job either, because I got paid under the table, and it was like $200 every 2 weeks. And I worked a lot. I worked 12-hour days for like 5 days a week, and I only got to pay $200 a week. But it was okay because I got to work at an arcade, and I didn't really care about how much I made. They could have kept paying me nothing, and I wouldn't have cared because I worked at an arcade, and I got to live my childhood dream. And I met a lot of friends, and I got to go to a lot of events. I got to go to Evo, and I met a lot of people that back in 2008 I thought were celebrities, like Mike Ross, Nutex, Alex Valle. Mike Watson is like, a lot of people know who he is, and to this day I can like talk to those people as if I've known them forever. So that's how I got to live my childhood dream of working at an arcade.